Hey, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm US Jester. My name is Junior. This is Mondo's 1/6 scale Teela Warrior Goddess. So, first time of me opening it up. This is the back side. Let's look at the side over here. And there's the front. So, um, definitely looks good. Definitely something I am going to frame. Some nice little tidbits of information. That's Skeletor and Beastman. It's really, this artwork really looks good. So yeah, that's part of the that's part of the artwork. So what can you do? So let's open it and let's see. This is velcroed. There's the actual figure and photography. So it's kind of like desaturated here. If we could just get this kind of color saturation, I'd be very happy. And there's the figure in the box. My apologies for the harsh lighting there. That should be better. And I'm gonna go ahead and take it out and we'll take a look. Alright, so I have the accessories out. First thing is we're going to inspect the figure immediately because there are 3 issues that I'm concerned about and I want to check them as soon as I can. One of the issues is the looseness of the ankles that I've heard about. It is loose, but not so bad. I think Mondo's figures are substantial. They're heavier, I think, than a usual hot toy. I think the only buck body that might be heavier than this is the World Box. Those are super solid, but this is heavy. And I mentioned that because I think these ankles can still support the figure. Let me move that. By standing on its own, yeah, it can still do it. Just no crazy poses. It won't be able to stand on its own on one leg. But I do have the base already constructed. And the base is, I think this is sort of different where it's a more of a rectangular prong going on in there. And I would clamp it on the waist of the figure. And hopefully it won't cause any kind of paint rub or anything like that. So that was the first issue. The secondary issue is the knees. Even though this is a later shipment, like they promised August and it's now September when it arrived, I was okay with it because I was really hoping that Mondo would contact their factories and fix the issues, and I think they did. Primarily what was happening was they weren't painting the knee joints over here, so it was just all of this color, this pinkish color, and I feel like mine are good. Like in the knees too, they're really stiff, so that's good. Let me just be careful. So obviously that's the articulation of the knee. I'm never going to bend it that much, but definitely I think the knee colors are better, less pronounced than what I've seen online, and that's what I was really hoping for. That's why I wasn't too upset that mine was a later shipment. So that's the second issue. The third issue, let me get this out of the way. It's not really a QC issue. This is more of a design issue that I knew was happening when it was shown. I was really hoping they would fix it somehow, and that's the ball joint on the hands. These are really ugly. Mondo, I was really hoping that you would fix that. I know it offers a whole lot more range, but man, that's just really ugly. And I was hoping the hands are stiff, really hard to take out. I feel like this is gonna break. Okay, that one was hard. My thoughts are, and this is just me, I would drill into this and deepen the cavity of this one so that I could insert this a little bit more, like maybe that much. That's what I was hoping for that Mondo would do on their own. See, I'm just afraid that if I do that, the arms, the forearms might look too short. We're talking about like, what is that, 10 centimeters of a difference that I'm asking for. It's just, this thing is just, it's just right there. I just it's really, maybe I won't see it if I do certain poses, but yeah, this is a very scary kind of mod. What I would do first to investigate is to measure the depth of the actual peg in there, which it's not a lot. It's basically the length of this peg. That's a shame. See, so we're gonna put the figure aside for now. We'll come back to it. And now we're going to go back to the proper accessories review. Here is the snake staff that the goddess Teela is going to be holding. Dice paint application. You'll see that this dark wash starts to degrade as it goes down to the staff until it becomes just a bare brown. That's kind of like a nice differentiation because you're not really seeing a lot of texture on the staff itself. Here's the second staff that Warrior Teela will be holding. You can see that it's got a very slight battle worn on the edges, and I like how they did that because in person you almost don't see it. You can kind of tell there's something going on, but it really jumps out a little bit more on camera. So it's proper to scale is what I'm trying to say, the paint application. And I really like the washing on this leather kind of banding on the staff, and then you have something like an end point, which is I don't know if that's a snake or a ram's horn. I will say though, it's my staff is slightly bent, which I'm not really happy about. This one I'm okay with because it's supposed to imply an organic design to it, but this is, it's kind of, I'll kind of fix it a little bit for a size, a scale of this type. And for the price, this should be like straight. It stands up to me. Here's the buckler that she has. A very nice design, intricate but not overly so. I also want to point out how they apply the gold or the copper banding over here. It's not a solid application of paint. It's got some differentiation on the layers, which I believe is also good because it adds a sense of realism to the piece, proper to its scale. When I keep saying proper to its scale, it's just sometimes when we apply paint to this object, because it's a smaller object, you kind of think you're applying it correctly, but when you translate a small paint splotch like this, in real life it's not going to be that small, it's going to be this big. And you just got to think of that in terms of scale, because paint has to scale to the figure as well. For the inside, very nice detailing. Finally, we're going to look at the sword that Teela is holding. Very nice, intricate detail. I think this is supposed to emulate fur. Here's the buckle. This is part of the scabbard. Look at this paint detail, washing, worn out look. I would say for this leather that goes around the scabbard, a slight, if you want to improve on it, maybe a slight darkening on the edges to make it stand out a little bit more. And this is a detail that's just amazing that they incorporated into the scabbard, this eagle detail in the paint application of this one. Look at that, very subtle wash. That might look good, or might look big or too much when it's zoomed in like this, but in hand, as you can see, as you go farther and farther, it just adds a layer of depth, but not overtly so. So let's take the sword out of the scabbard. Really nice sounding sword. Let's talk about my first impression of this one. It feels too clean to me. You'll immediately notice it on the handle, where I think this is supposed to emulate leather banding around it, and it's just way too clean. The guard is too clean, and even the sword. So let's compare it to this one. This is what I was referring to when I say the subtle washing that they're applying to the edges that you barely can see on camera, but when you look farther away, you know there's something going on here. You can almost see it, but looking at it up close, you'll definitely notice how the edges have that slightly worn look. That's missing on the blade. In fact, this might be a better comparison. Look at how different these two look. Right? This looks flat, this one looks more layered. And they have the same level of detail and sculpture, but that's just the difference. And I'm betting that this is the base color as this one. It's just that this one has the wash going on. So here's an example. I think these three have the same base color. This is bare gold. This is with a slight wash. This is with a deep wash. That's the difference that you're going to be seeing without a proper paint application. This one is missing. But design wise, it looks amazing. It's just having a bare paint base makes it stand out a little bit more. Here's the two closed-fisted hands, and here's the two open hands. Nothing much going on. I'm gonna have to say it's slightly too soft for me in detail, not only in detail but also in paint application. And I only mention that because when you have items such as these, or just the paint application just stands out. Notice that when you start interacting the hand with the sword, it just stands out. Like the hand just stands out. So I'm assuming the figure, it will stand out in the figure as well. We'll see it later. This is the final accessory, I will say, is the headdress for the Teela goddess figure. Look at the detail on that. Not only in sculpting but also in paint. I'm never going to display this figure in this form, which is such a shame because this is so beautiful, and the back is nicely detailed as well. But I'm gonna have to find a way. I saw on Facebook somebody post where they put this as a sort of in a armory stand, which kind of made this become a decoration. I kind of like, I'm not sure if you're noticing, there's a slight asymmetrical to the design where it's not like completely mirrored to each other. I feel like this is a little bit higher, this is than this, which gives it a lot more of an organic design, so it's not like completely symmetrical from one half to the other. I'm taking out the second head, which is the angry Teela head. I don't look for realism when it comes to the Mondo paint and sculpt. It still reminds me of a toy, of a cartoon version, but slightly amped up, close to natural looking. I want to point out, like, look at the earrings as well. The paint application is subtle, still comic-y, still cartoony, not realistic, but perfect for how the figure is designed and how the face is designed. I'm not gonna display her as angry. It's a really good portrait though. And the ponytail over here. Now here's the third sculpt, and I commented when I saw this sculpt that I was disappointed in how the heads were presented, because I love this face. I do. This is the best expression of the three sculpts, and I'll bring out the third one later on. But the hairpiece is not the one I want on this figure. I want this hairpiece to go with that expression, and I was really hoping that somehow the face would have been removable from the hair, which it technically is if you look at it, because that's a separate piece. The head is separate piece from the hair. That would have allowed us to swap facial expressions. However, I think in Mondo's defense, I think they did that because if you were to swap out the head from the hair, I think the gap between the two pieces would be too jarring. I really, really wish I could put this as my regular head. I'm not, this is the 2000X hairstyle Teela though. That's why I really don't want to use it. And I just noticed the difference in the tiara design. On the 2000X tiara, you'll see a snake on the headpiece as the difference. Let's take a proper look at the headpiece on the regular Teela. Okay, I gotta admit, man, look at that face. That's I love this face. It's just, she's so smiling and engaging, but this face kind of has look of a sultry like look. I gotta keep bringing this back and forth. I just noticed the eyeliner on her upper eyelid. It just so striking to me. Now let's look at the other one where she's angry. Oh, look at that. The angry head does not have the upper blue eyeliner. That's why my eyes gravitated towards her eyes. Yeah. Doesn't have the upper liner of blue, and it just accentuates her eyes just a slight bit, and that's missing on the 2000X head. It just made her just a little bit much more enticing to look at. So I think I will keep this head on her. While I have you on close-up, we might as well look at the body close-up of Teela. Very subtle paint application on the chest with the flesh painting. Subtle paint apps on the arms as well. The chest piece. This is a floating device that's actually attached to the upper torso. So this design for her torso over here, it's kind of antiquated. It's very reminiscent of how it is in the cartoons, but the design, the resolution that they did, where it's like body hugging bodice, but it looks so like no female warrior would be caught dead just wearing this for her armor, right? But it just looks so nice. It really is. The choices that they're making in terms of the design with Mondo, I completely trust their design choices. So whoever's making those, they're making really good designs. That's why when they announced the line of Thundercats, I'm like immediately on board, because even on the Beastman, which I thought might be too furry or too, it was too outside of the regular Motu look, I still bought. I think the Orko is the only one that I might have an issue with, but it's mostly the scale. It's not the design. It just seems to me still that Orko is slightly too big when compared with He-Man. So let's zoom out a little bit and let's talk about articulation. So let's talk about articulation on this figure. The head can look up that much before it starts hitting the back of the armor piece. Goes down very well, side to side, and obviously turns around until again you're kind of stopped by, well, you can turn all the way around. The shoulders are stiff, so be very careful when you're first moving them. It does have a slight wide gap of ratchets inside. When I'm noticed that when I'm holding it, I'm just holding it here and here, but it can do a T-pose up to that much. The elbow is single jointed like all Mondos, but it does have a swivel at the elbow, side to side, and then oh wow, that's really stiff. Maybe 90 degrees on the elbow. Maybe it would serve you guys better if you were to put this on warm water first to slightly loosen the joints, and it would also help in styling this fur because the fur is just kind of all over the place. It should be a little bit like this. Maybe style something. The hands, I kind of talked about that in the introduction. It's got all kinds of range, and I would sacrifice range for aesthetic because right now that just stands out. I mean, like, look, and the joints are loose, which I'm afraid because as time goes on it will only get looser. When you're looking at this figure, which is beautifully proportioned, the thing that's going to stand out is, what is that? That's the first thing that my eyes zoomed in. It's not even her boobs or her hips or her face. It's that one, because it just, out of all the proportions, that's the one that stands out. So I would sacrifice that if I can just get rid of it. The funny thing is, I pointed out that on She-Ra, they don't have that problem, and I don't understand why they did it on Teela. The legs can go out that much. Back wise, not a lot because of the design on the butt. Front wise, can go pretty high considering it's Mondo articulation, but be careful because you are starting to rub against the waist, hip area, crotch area, and if you keep doing that, eventually you're probably going to cause a paint rub. Even though, as I've said before, the paint application, the paint that they're using is much better now. I've already shown the articulation on the knee, so I'm not going to force that. The articulation on the ankle is much better. I want to compare this to a He-Man figure because I think I know why this is so loose. This joint design is different, I feel, from other Mondos. We'll check out and see. And the bottom of the shoe is like that. One other thing I want to point out, when you are putting this on her waist, I think the best way is to pry open the prongs so that it's a little loose, and just move it towards the figure so you're avoiding what I'm doing now, which is letting those edges touch the figure itself. You want to avoid having that touch the white part as much as you can. Look at that. This thing is just slightly, I couldn't remove it even though I put it in water. This thing was like solidly stuck in there, so I'm gonna have to ask for Mondo support. The problem is, how do I get this peg out of the body. I knew it. Like, that's why I even put it in water, just to make sure as I was pulling it out, because this was just, it's just too stuck in there. I'm not completely disappointed yet, because I know Mondo's customer service will take care of it, but it's just disappointing. I'm gonna have to wait for it again. And we're gonna have to wait for Mondo, but let's continue, unfortunately, with a broken hand. So the way the headdress, I think it just basically scoops into the head itself. I would protect the flesh color first and just have it come out like that. That looks pretty good. Always protect the flesh colored paint job on the head. I'm not gonna put it on again, because I want to protect this face. I forgot to talk about the rotation on the upper chest. It's got a rotation here that's almost invisible, hidden by these gems, or these belt. But I still wouldn't want to push it too much. Maybe up to that much. You don't really need a lot more. And this, the way this is constructed, it's gonna affect any kind of motion forward and back. That's all the movement you're gonna get from the upper cut rather than from the bottom. I've heard in order to place this straight from the creative directors, that you just basically slip this onto the legs. Should I make it her? It seems to be going this way, so we'll do that. Wow, that's really tight, especially around the knees and the armor on the knees. So, and it's gonna damage this fur. It's not the best, Mondo. This is not the best way to do this, because it's scary for a $200 figure. I'm pretty sure this is what they said to do, which is just really no avoiding it, just forcing it through these. It's gonna damage the fur. This is a one-time done of putting this belt on, because this is just okay. Finally, that's the scariest part, because you're afraid of damaging the fur. The second scariest part is around the thighs over here, because it's really wide. But luckily, because of the new paint that they're using, I don't think it's going to cause damage. It's stretchy enough, we know that much, so it's just a matter of pushing it in. This is the widest point too. Just being careful. And we're almost through the hard part. Gotta make sure this is going through the butt properly. Move the arms out of the way. Come on, almost there. Let me move this up. Yeah, that loosens it up Almost there. And we're through. Woo. Make sure you know where you're gonna put the sword on her hips before you do that, because I think it's gonna be a lot more harder to remove this and putting it in. In regards to her knees, I mean her ankles, so I'm half right, I'm half wrong. Notice that they're using a ball joint on the ankles. I brought out He-Man, and I believe Skeletor is designed the same way, where you really don't see that. It makes it more cohesive in terms of look, but limits the articulation. See, as you can see, they're not using ball joints, they're using hinges. So there's not a lot of moving forward, I think. Still has a tilt. It kind of limits the ankle movement, but it's just much more better in terms of design and stability. Now for She-Ra, I brought out She-Ra over here. I didn't notice it when I was reviewing her that she had ball joints, unlike the He-Man figure, but she does. Right there. Which explains her slight instability when you're posing her. I thought it was just because her foot is obviously smaller than He-Man's or the male figures, and because of the heel design. I thought that's what was making her a little bit unstable, but it's actually the ball joint that they used to design the ankles. Now, what's making her a little bit more stable is the fact that the sculpt of the armor to the boots prevents her from completely toppling over. So that provides a little bit of stability. But she is also a figure that I feel more comfortable on a stand. So going back to Teela, Teela now does not have the armor to hide the ball joints, so this is a little bit more jarring, but this is much more better than the ball joint on the hands. And going back to the ankles, now because it doesn't have the armor as well, it doesn't have a lot of stopping it forward. I believe some people apply some sort of liquid to tighten it up. So I've also noticed that Teela is actually shorter than She-Ra, so I'm okay with that. I like the variances in height. It gives her a little bit more personality, the characters that they're putting in. Forgive me that I'm hiding the broken hand. It just lessens the distraction of the figure. I still like how it looks. Aside from the large ball peg, I feel like they addressed the issue with the knees, which could have been a disaster, even though it's being hidden by those two armor pieces. The ball joints on the ankles, I'm kind of okay with because it's not completely loose. She-Ra has the same issue. I feel the same way about the ankles as I feel with She-Ra, where I'm more comfortable displaying these two figures on their bases, so that's good. Is it still a something I would recommend? Yes, even though I have two quality control issues of breakage, because from my past experiences with Mondo and He-Man, their customer service has always gone beyond. The only thing is, these things are shipping from China, so it's gonna take a while for a repair or a solution to come through. I also need to mention that the one that has the broken peg is the gripping open hand. Uh, and then I'll leave it up to customer service from Mondo to provide a solution for me. Um, you can probably hear from my voice the slight change and disappointment in tone after the breakage of the hand, but it's still a great figure. It really is. And we'll talk about it some more. I'll make another video to update you guys on how Mondo will resolve my issue. But yeah. So anyway, I love this head a lot more than before. I still love the smiling expression on this head. It's a lot more engaging. The subtle differences in the eyeliner, Sheer doesn't even have that. I think from even from afar, you can kind of tell there's something different about Teela's face. And then to slightly modify it, maybe I'll do something with the fur because it looks too wild right now, too uncontrolled. But yeah, that's it for my review. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you guys again soon. I'm trying to get through my stuff, particularly the Rattler from the Stinger from the GI Joe Classified series. So I'll see you guys soon. Bye.